You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, no, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today I'm here with Jared and Tiffany, the host of Everyday Guru podcast. Jared is the owner of the Guru Tech Services, which provides IT and cloud service throughout the North Country and New York. Thank you so much. He uses holistic methods to treat his scoliosis, arthritis, and botched foot surgery. And Tiffany, I love you, Tiffany. I'm so glad you're here with us, has a background in emergency dispatching and uses holistic methods to help in the treatment of fibromyalgia, neuropathy, and liver disease. And I am so glad the two of you are here. And for those of you who are listening, it's actually New Year's Eve today. So I don't know when this is going to come out, but
I know. Well, Tiffany was the one that told me about it like a week ago. And she was like kind of nervous, like, I'm like, Tiffany, you got to do it, And only that's on New Year's, which is freaking awesome.
Well, I know you get really nervous, Tiffany, and I don't want you to be nervous. It's just like us sitting around talking like we just were. It's not a big deal. And the people who listen to Oh My Health, There's Hope, they're really good people and they love all of us, right? So you're in good hands. So the first thing we ask you guys to do is to share your story of hope, because going into 2021, I just feel like I want a graphic of me kicking the numbers 2020 out the door. And letting 2021 in the other door, right? So I'm super excited that that's happening for us. So do you guys want to share? You could take turns and share your story of hope going into 2020 or 2021.
Sure, Jared, you want to go first?
Of course, throw me under the bus, right? Oh, where do I begin? As far as like the scoliosis, if you want to touch on that first.
We're going to touch on one. So I want you to touch on one story that you want to share with everyone.
Well, sure. I mean, when I was at a young age, probably school age, I should say, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, and I'm sure it's a common problem. A lot of people have scoliosis and MS as well. I know they're like two different things, right? Pretty much. Yeah. So scoliosis, if anybody doesn't know, it's a curvature of the spine, and it can be corrected a bunch of different ways. As technology has progressed, they're doing less surgeries to treat scoliosis, and they're doing more physical therapy. Although, depending on how bad it is, you may need a rod in your back or corrective measures. And unfortunately, had to have the quote rod in your back, right? It's called a Harrington rod. It's a long rod with little hooks coming off in it, and it's used to straighten your spine. And I mean, it was really bad. It was like I was the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and laugh and joke about it. But yeah, I mean, it was really painful, but it did a lot for my back. It, helped out a lot. And I was really scared. I mean, I never been put under before. Actually, it was the school doctor, school nurse. They caught it early. And yeah, so for anybody, I guess my story is for anybody that, has, how do I say it, is really maybe scared about going under for surgery, or as any, fears about that, is, take heart, child. It's very scary when to go under the knife, but, I got through it, so I guess that's kind of my story about that. I don't know how I can elaborate on that, but kind of do it from memory here. But for anybody that has scoliosis, there's a lot to make it better too. I know you do holistic health. So for instance, like I was on a lot of morphine, I should say, when I was in the hospital. So they try to wean you off it as fast as possible, because it is very addictive. Anybody that has been on opioids for pain treatment or whatever know how addictive it is. So they try to wean you off as much as possible, which kind of fits into what you're doing, Jana, as far as like holistic health. You told us your story. Had I known about holistic health sooner, when I had my surgery, it probably would have made recovery faster, just because of not having to be on so many pain meds. Like when they get you off of morphine, I had a spinal tap. When they get you off of that, they put you on like really, really powerful narcotics. So
I 100% agree. I remember going to school with a girl who had scoliosis, and she had to wear one of those braces where it was like a leather thing that she wore under that kept her straight. It was weird, but I went to school way before you, so they didn't have probably all the
Yeah.
tools that they have now. Back in the old, my grandmother took me in a horse and buggy, right? Because I'm that old. No, not that old. But I love that you're using more holistic things and that you're on the other side of that and that you're finding natural ways to keep that going. I know I want to hear Tiffany's story too.
Okay. Yes, I have a story too. I think I'm going to touch on, since it's New Year's Eve, I think I'm going to touch on my alcoholism. So I am an alcoholic. I have been sober for 3.5 years. Um, I have end stage liver disease. So that means that, unfortunately, my liver has deteriorated to the point where eventually I will need a transplant. I will need a yeah,
Liver transplant?
yes, liver transplant. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I started drinking at a young age. If anybody has a problem with alcohol, started drinking at a young age, and it just got out of control in college. And I think at yeah. And then I got really sick and I ended up in the hospital for 2.5 months and I almost died. And that was a very, very scary time in my life. I was on a lot of medicines. I had a feeding tube up my nose that went to my stomach. And this is all from just alcohol, just alcohol, and so it happens to anybody. It really can. And I just wanted to let anybody know that if anybody has any problems, they can always reach out to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And also, I just wanted to say that the alcoholism led to a condition called neuropathy. And neuropathy basically is the deterioration and um, it means that your nerves have died or are dying or have severe issues. So basically, all the nerves in my hands and my feet have kind of deteriorated to the point where I can't really write anymore. It's hard to walk for long periods of time. I get pain no matter what in my feet. So I'm on high levels of medication, but I'm trying to lessen that with holistic methods. Um,
Yeah. We won't go into what holistic methods those are.
But yeah, so that's one of my stories. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
I do. I actually want to touch on this a lot because I love that you're so brave and that you come on here and talk about, being an alcoholic. I was raised by an alcoholic and I can tell you it definitely affected my life. And
Mhm.
because of that, I've never been a real drinker. Like
Yes.
I'm
That's
not a
good.
teetotal either. I'll have a glass of wine. When they
Yeah.
ask you how much do you drink, there's never a box for me. I don't not drink, but maybe
Right.
2 or 3 times a year, and there's really no box for that.
Right.
It's either how many times a week, a day, and that's just not. It's like if we go to dinner with friends, I'll have a glass of wine.
Right. Exactly.
But it's because I was terrified of being an
Yeah.
alcoholic
Mm-hmm.
and
Mhm.
and affecting my family the way I was affected because of an alcoholic. But I really want to touch on the fact that you're talking about you started drinking at a really young age. How young were you?
I was 14.
Wow, that is really young. And how, like, for people who have young kids and they're experimenting, because they say it's just
Mhm.
they're just experimenting. It's just a beer,
Right.
right? But
Mhm.
why are they feeling the need to have so much beer that they get into that altered state and they don't know when to stop and they don't have
Exactly.
control of what's going on around them? And so, what are some
Also,
of
it's not normal to just to drink to get drunk. It's and that's what I was taught at a young age and by people that were older than me, because that's who was giving me the alcohol, a little bit older, like 16. I was hanging out with 16-year-olds, when I was 14. So that was a little bit of a problem, because I was taught, you drink to get drunk, and
Oh yeah, there's a lot of pressure. I had it too growing up. A
yeah.
lot of pressure, and I have family members, not immediate family, that all that kind of scared me. And my dad, beat it through my head, like, if you get a DWI, this is what's in store for you. And it's even worse
Yeah.
now. I mean, you can't have a DWI for under 10,000. So it kind of puts the fear of God in me to be very careful when I go out.
I love that you put a money frame around a DWI and not the other consequences that maybe you get killed or you kill someone.
I'm sorry.
It's all about the dollar.
It's a business owner in me, right?
The truth of the matter is, if you get a $10,000 fine, you got off easy because you survived to pay it.
True. Well, and you also get to be on our local radio station, WIRY, too, around here.
Love it.
Badge of honor you get.
It's really funny because I grew up around a lot of Italian families. I'm not Italian, I'm Irish, which think about Irish and alcohol. But I grew up around a lot of Italian families, and they grew up with alcohol being very part of their culture. Kids were drinking when they were teething, they would dip a little washcloth into either whiskey or some sort of alcohol and give it to the baby to rub on its gums and teeth. And they were giving it alcohol. And like, to me, I freak out about stuff like that, although they've been doing it for generations and generations.
Right. I've heard that. Yeah.
So it's normal for them. It's a normal process to see their kids start drinking.
Yeah, that is very odd because I come from an Irish and Polish household. So yeah. But my father was an alcoholic, but he stopped drinking when I was 2. So I didn't really see the ramifications of that. I heard about it through my older siblings, but yeah. So if you have kids that are experimenting, just talk to them, because that's another thing. Just talk, have a conversation.
I will say my dad, when he stopped drinking many times because of no other choice. Like, you probably stopped because of the health scare, probably is what's keeping you away from it.
Yeah.
But he stopped because for many reasons throughout the years, but they never worked. And it was never AA, by the way. And I hated AA as a child because it took my dad even more away from me, because when he got scared and his relationships were all with AAs. I remember, oh my gosh, Tiffany and Jared, I remember once thinking to myself, I'm going to become an alcoholic so my dad will finally recognize me and pay attention to me.
Oh my God.
If I was a drunk, he would know what to do with me. And thinking that process because I wanted more of my dad's attention and I had none. And I've told this story on the show many times, but it wasn't until his funeral that I went there. And by the way, AA was his last getting sober, and he stayed sober 20 years using AA. And he never missed meetings. He just got fully involved. In 20 years, he stayed sober. I was already 20 when that happened, but he stayed sober. And I remember when I went to his funeral, there was a line of people waiting. Well, I first walked in the doors, I was like, I'm in the wrong place. It was packed, and there were people standing and outside, and they had to put speakers. And I'm like, what is going on? And when I sat down, it was like an AA meeting. There was this long line of people waiting to go up and give their little talk. And it was always that my dad's name was Lonnie. It was always like, Lonnie found me in the street, and my wife had kicked me out. I was living, in my car. I lost my job. And this was the mayor. It was like these great people who their sober side of life, when they found the other side, had created these great things and were doing amazing things and saved their families. And it occurred to me, that was my dad's journey. He was never supposed to be my dad. He sucked at it. He was really bad at it. But if he hadn't been an alcoholic and gone through all of this and found his place that day in AA, this was what he was supposed to do. And so I was able to not be hateful and angry. I've never felt anger towards my dad then. And I understand now that each person going through something like that, they're going through a journey. And who am I to judge how they're getting there, right? There's a reason for it. If none of us were alcoholics, who would be there to help that one person who was?
That's true. That's very true.
So what would you say to people who are afraid to reach out to those strangers at AA I'm telling you, I did not like AA as a child. I went to one meeting with my dad. And I thought it was ridiculous, and because I'm not an alcoholic, so I didn't get the point. It was very depressing. Like they were talking about their worst day, and I'm like, I don't want to hear about this. Like I'm a very upbeat person, right? And so for me, it was very hard. But
Yeah.
that was what flowed in them to keep them going the next minute, the next hour, the next day, week, whatever that was. And so what would you say to people who are just afraid they're either ashamed, they're scared. Some people are scared of getting sober. Like, I don't know what my life will be like sober, and drunk, I don't know, because I don't care.
Right, exactly. It was very scary for me to walk in that door after leaving the hospital. It really was. But I did it, and I'm really happy I did it. But I will tell you that for people that don't want to go to AA, you can still, I don't really go anymore. And I used it when I first got sober just to see what it was. And I think that just find it, if you could find something to live for. Just find something to live for, that's my best advice, really. I mean, that's what it comes down to, unfortunately. Yeah. Just find it.
No, I think that's really, actually, I think that's really good advice. Like when I was laid up in the hospital, you have depression and you have your freaking high on pain meds, and, or like when I had my foot surgery, you keep, "Oh, why did this happen to me? Why did I get dealt a stick of cards?" But then you
Yeah.
realize, okay, well, first, like, at least for me, it's like, okay, I know somebody always has it worse off than I do. You know what I mean? Like, almost like, oh, there's a saying about, I pitied myself because I didn't have this until I met the man with no legs. And then you realize, okay, hey, there's hope. It's, right.
Mhm.
And then yet people with no legs can still smile. So that's kind of like I tell people, find, like you said, find your purpose,
Right.
find
Your
hope.
purpose. Yeah.
Yeah,
Find some hope.
exactly.
Especially in the new year, there's tons of hope. I mean,
Right.
really, the whole year is a brand new year. You can do anything, really, you set your mind to.
Yeah, and we met on Match, so like I tell people, there's always somebody that you click with, somebody that's been through it,
Yeah.
that, right?
I
So you can
love
kind of like yin and yang.
I love the message, find something to live for. As a matter of fact, that's what we're going to title this podcast, because I think that you're right. I remember I went to a concert once, and one of my favorite quotes was from somebody I'm not even a big fan of, but Common was at the Hollywood Bowl with a bunch of other singers, and he was singing, and at the end he gave this beautiful thought, and it stuck with me. I like really resonated with me. But he's like, when you find something you're willing to die for, which to me is my family, I would die
Right.
for them.
Right.
Start living for them today. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so empowering for me, because that's exactly, I found something to live for. It was about creating memories when I was on my deathbed, which brought me 10 years down the road. Here I still am. And so you guys are finding things to live for, to move you, to get you out of that space and move you forward into life.
Yep.
Yeah, like Tiffany, remember you wouldn't be caught dead on a podcast, and I told, Tiffany, want to get on a podcast, and you're like deathly afraid, and I got you out of your comfort zone, and you've gotten out of my comfort zone, like talking to people, and you know what I mean? Because I'm like, all the stuff that you've been through just amazes me, and Jana, especially when we first met, you're like, I usually don't do podcasts, but I'll give the Everyday Guru a whirl, and tongue tied here. So no, and then he came on, I'm like, oh my God, you went through all that. I'm like, there's like books that don't come close. You know what I mean? As far as, you would
your
never.
journey is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And these are just everyday people,
It's very true. We are everyday people. But Tiffany and Jared, I want to just tell you guys something about your stories. And I hope that you remember this. But if you keep holding that story inside, which is, by the way, you're right to hold it inside. It might be a story you just don't want to share. But if you want to share it, don't let fear stop you, because I promise you that story inside of you is the message of hope or the miracle that somebody else is needing to hear. And so when you start putting that message out into the world, starts touching people, starts changing lives, and creating this ripple effect that you will never even see.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah, I believe you too.
Well, I'm glad you guys were both so brave to come on here and share. I want to talk a little bit about your podcast, because you're right. I do. When you say I don't do podcasts, I do them all the time, but I don't guest on them because I'm so busy. But when I met you guys and I love the message behind your podcast, I was like, yeah, it's like 30 minutes. I could do that. And so I went ahead and did it, but I became this huge, not only listener, but fan of your podcast, Everyday Guru. And I just love that name even. So tell us a little bit about why you even started the podcast and what the message is.
Oh my God. I've been put on the spot here, blushing. So basically, yeah, we listened to a lot of podcasts and I just, thought they were boring. Right. And then I think I heard you, and then, with your message of, how you do yourself, message of hope and love and all that. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just start one for the everyday guru instead of just like having like maybe doctors and lawyers, which are cool. They're fine. I know a lot of them in real life. They're awesome people, but just the person like you interview, that has a story to share, just an everyday expert that you maybe your next door neighbor, right? That's really smart and really educated through the school of life or otherwise, that, and we figured get them on and let them tell their story. Kind of like basically the same thing you do, but just basically with a different name. But maybe not so focused on holistic health, but maybe more of a broad maybe audience, but still pretty much the same what you do, Jana,
I love that. I love your show. And I will have your podcast link in the show notes so people can go and visit it and listen to it. And you guys, if you're visiting somebody's show, whether it's ours or Everyday Guru, give them some love. It takes a lot for us to put these beautiful shows together for you. All we're asking is that you say, hey, I loved it. Give us a like, give us a comment.
Kudos, right? I know. And especially
Yes.
you have a high production quality, with your intro and everything. I was like, when I heard it, I'm like, oh my God, it's like a work of art in itself, your intro,
Thank you. That was from a musician friend of mine who's a client. And I begged her when I heard her song, I'm like, I have to have your song. And so she gave me licensing right to use it on my podcast. So I was really grateful to her. So shout out to Amy Gearhartz.
Thank you, Amy. You're awesome.
Yep.
So other than doing the podcast, is there anything else you're doing right now that people want to know about?
Not really. I mean, not a whole, not really. I mean, just
No,
kind of waiting for the new year,
I know, I can't wait. Well, I mean,
12 o'clock.
What are you guys looking forward to in the new year? Like, what are you looking to leave behind other than COVID? Because we're all looking forward to leave COVID behind us at some point.
Thank God, vaccine.
Looking forward to a vaccine that maybe works.
Everybody
can get.
For that. Lord, peace, love, hope, everybody,
I'm looking forward to a new administration.
You said it before I did, Tiffany.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Well, please don't send us hate mail.
I'm going to be putting their address in because I stay politically neutral. Here's the thing. It's not that I stay politically neutral. Whatever my opinion is, it doesn't matter. The only time my opinion ever matters in politics is the day I show up and vote. So for all those, it doesn't matter how much I scream, I shout, I yell, I want change. And then sometimes even when I vote, it doesn't matter. But I know that that's the only time it counts is I show up. I've never missed an election since I was 18 years old. I show up and I vote. Even when I was sick, get me a ballot. I'm voting. I don't miss elections.
For you. Yeah, New York is where we're from. It's primarily Democratic. So, I teased a few friends. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you vote. The city's going to vote Democrat. So, you know what? Might as well just take out your ballot and burn it. And now, we joke about, okay, I know Tiffany's like elbowing me. But yeah, in all seriousness, you're right. You got to make your voice heard, no matter what it be.
You do have to make your beautiful voice heard. And it's heard the loudest when you push that vote.
It's true. It's true.
And people tell me all the time, well, you're just going to cancel me out. Not if you're not there.
That's true. About that. That's what my dad said too. He goes, of course your vote matters, Jared. Of course it matters. I'm like, no, it don't. So yeah, but it's all in good fun now. Please don't send me hate mail. We, friends.
No, it is all in good fun. And you know what? Maybe we do need change, whether we like the current president or dislike him, but maybe change is what we need right now. So this might be refreshing. I don't know. It could just bring the devil I know might be better than the devil I don't. But I'm ready to get on a new roller coaster. For sure.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
God, I got so much hate mail. Oh my God. Right. No, please don't.
You guys live in New York. How's it going in New York right now?
Good. I mean, we're from northern New York, like near
Okay.
the Canadian border. So COVID cases are very low, but we're praying for all the people in New York City,
Definitely.
Buffalo,
It,
Syracuse.
it's like different places. My kids used to live in Watertown. And if you took the wrong exit, one exit, you were in Canada. Like if you missed your
Right.
exit.
Oh, exactly. Yep.
And you'd have to go to the border, turn around and come out. But it was pretty crazy. But I think that in it's weird because different parts of the US are completely different. My sister lives in Idaho. They don't wear masks. They're at football games.
Oh,
They're
wow.
having parties and she's posting pictures. I'm like, I really hate you. I haven't barely been out of the house all year.
Right.
It,
That's how
it-
I feel. Yeah, we've been enclosed since March.
yes, we've barely been out. And when we go out, we're so weird about it. Like I have a photo shoot coming up in February and my husband's like, you're not going. I don't know those people. I don't think it's going to be cleared up yet, and you're not going. Oh, please.
Well, just wear a mask, and then once you have to do the photo shoot, just
It's
Yeah.
hard for me to argue with him because he's a doctor, so he might know a little
Oh,
bit about what
gosh.
he's talking about.
That is difficult.
The other side of it is my actions have that ripple effect, whether I'm doing something good or not good, right? And my husband has a hospital that has 30 employees. And if I bring it home, even if I'm cautious and I bring it home and he gets it, those 30 people are affected by my actions and they no longer have a job for 2 weeks. So, because they would have to close the hospital down, send everyone home for 2 weeks. And so I'm really careful because I know my actions affect more than just me. So I'm trying to be really careful. I'm trying to respect his wishes when he's like, please stay home and don't go there. So it's just a photo shoot. Like it's not going anywhere. I can do it another day, right?
Exactly.
do a virtual photo shoot, right?
That would be, man, if somebody can come up with that, I'm in.
Right, that would be pretty awesome. We
Well,
got
I
green
am,
screens.
pardon?
Got green screens, right?
Well, yeah, they just look like green screens. So no matter what you put
That's the
behind them, they
problem.
don't really look real.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that's true.
They look fake. That's true. It's not the same as going to the Rocky Mountains and actually doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we haven't perfected it, although the movie studio has. We quite have not perfected using it at home and
Yeah.
well, I am so grateful to you guys taking the time out to meet on the show on New Year's Eve.
I
Yeah.
know.
Oh, thank you so much for
Thank
having
you for
us.
having us. Yes, and thank you for Tiffany for elbowing me when I get too out of hand. There, I tell Tiffany,
Whoops.
she's like my conscience. She's like, Jared, it took too much. It's like I can imagine, like Bill and Hillary there. Hillary, elbowing Bill when he says something he
Oh,
shouldn't. That's me.
I'm pretty sure that happens in every office.
really?
No, but I got bruises. You don't understand.
No, he does not.
I think it's so funny that when it comes to politics, and this is not a who's in office, but
Mhm.
people were saying like, you'll never see a woman president. You'll never have. And I'm thinking if it wasn't because they're not strong enough. They're not focused enough, like whatever the reasons are, every generation is a different reason.
Mhm.
I started thinking about it one day, and every woman kind of since the beginning of time has been in office because every man was raised by their mother. Everything that they're bringing to office was through their growing, their childhood. And
Right.
the power of that woman is right there in office and always has been.
Oh my God. You don't understand, but I know you do because you read the books and to really understand. I'm sure you're taking a lot of psychology courses, stuff like that. But I can't believe how much they said something like after 10 or 20 years, people don't change, or it's very, very hard because especially, what you have imprinted from your parents. People don't realize what a big impact they have on your life, their beliefs. I'm a grammar Nazi because of my mom, and I don't know about Tiffany, but we all, pick up certain behaviors
Oh
from
yeah,
them.
I got the grammar gene from my mom too.
I will tell you, even younger, I would say 7 or 8 years, all of our limiting beliefs have been set into our brains. So a lot of that happens in our younger development when we're learning and absorbing the most. We're learning to speak, we're learning to walk, we're learning to make choices, dress ourselves, all these things. Even in our younger years, what's going around in our environment, in our homes, what we're learning in school, what we're overhearing in conversations have definitely impact who we are as adults, for sure.
Yeah, politics,
Mhm.
same everything. And I always tell people, like, kind of like when we do our podcast, it's great because it kind of gets us out of our comfort zones and talking to new people, because you don't know what you don't know. I tell people that, and sometimes people take it as an insult. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to insult you. It's just, if you don't have the spice of life, if you don't have the variety, how are you going to know what you're missing? You know, I've had my mind change so many times in life, it's can't even keep track.
For
Mhm.
those of people who cannot change their mind, I feel really sorry for you, because if you can just open your mind to the possibilities
Mhm.
outside of what's already there, wow, like amazing things will start to happen for you.
Right, exactly. You know, whether it be politics, whether it be health and wellness, whether it be, I don't know. I can't think of any more. My brain is.
Well, Tiffany, I'm going to give you this tip while we're still on the podcast, because I want everyone to hear this tip. So
Mhm.
I'm a holistic junkie. A lot of it was because it was forced upon me. I remember my very first experience was 10 years ago with holistic anything, um, because I was desperate because pharmaceuticals had failed me. And I was typing it literally into my keyboard, desperate for health answers, holistic options, and finding these amazing things. So for your feet, I want you to start using peppermint oil. I want
Okay.
you to get a really high quality pepper oil, because they're not all created equally. And I want you to mix it with either coconut oil, or it could even be olive oil in the kitchen or something. Mix it and start rubbing it on the bottoms of your feet, because it starts producing blood flow. It's warm, it's tingly. They
Oh,
use
interesting.
peppermint oil for diabetics as well. Like you'll see peppermint lotions, things like that,
Right,
to
right.
start stimulating circulation in the bottoms of the feet to help you with that. So I definitely would start doing that. And um, Jared, you're like telling me about going under the knife and being scared. Everybody's scared because, you know what? We don't have any control. We can't say, hey, what are you doing? Hey, what's that all about? Hey, is that
Yeah, but
straight?
when you're younger though, don't you think when you're younger you're more scared though? Maybe
I think when you're younger, you're least scared because you don't have all those fears
you don't
built
know
up
any
in your
better.
head.
Yeah.
I do think you're a little scared for sure, but I think as you get older, you know more about mortality, right? Like
Mhm.
young people, by the way, I'll tell everyone who's listening, rarely do you die on the surgical table. You can't even have a DNA or DNR, and they can't use it if you're on the surgical table. They do everything they can, even if that means putting you on life support, but they rarely do you die on a surgical table. There is so much control over everything going on.
I've been under many times and I have never had an issue, and everything has always gone perfectly well. And so,
I know that's why I get my hope from her, because she's like so optimistic, and yeah,
well,
it's
I
all.
have. I've been under like 6
I
times.
know, but
So,
it don't matter. I see, and I know your husband's a doctor, but it's like still, you know, you see those out of body shows where the person's floating and they're seeing themselves, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, even when I
I
had
Go ahead.
no, even then when I had a colonoscopy, I'm like, don't put me under, you know, because of that loss of control, you know.
Well, I've had probably 15 surgeries, and I literally have something called MH, malignant hyperthermia, which is an allergic reaction or adverse reaction. It's a deadly reaction to inhalant anesthesia. So I don't even go under normal anesthesia. I use the stuff that Michael Jackson had, what they call
oh,
milk and magnesia, the propofol.
yeah.
That's what they have to use, and then they give me other things to help me not feel pain like anesthesia would do. And so I use that, but I wake up feeling amazing. You wake up the way you went under. So if you go under anxious and scared and
Right.
frightened, that's how you wake up. But if you go under like, I got this, I'm always giving them thumbs up in the surgical room. We got this. See you on the other side, right? And I
I
wake up
give him high
exactly like
fives.
that.
It's like, hey, five, everybody.
I
Yeah.
Yeah.
totally do. I totally do. You guys okay today? Anyone need to step out?
Oh my God. I had a little, they call it a procedure, if you want to call it that. I had something removed on my hand, and it's so funny. All the nurses were really awesome. The doctor was really awesome. And I'm not going to discuss the politics of it, but we had quite the awesome discussion. And it's just, so cool. You know, everybody's like vibing. We got the music going on, you know, it's like I can only imagine what you guys listen to while we're knocked under, you know?
Or what they're saying, right?
Or yeah, what they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. They actually had a woman who actually did that. She actually audio recorded. They figured that something was being said, breaking HIPAA behind her back, and she actually snuck a tape recorder in. won a lawsuit.
Where? You go in nude. Where? Is she sticking her
I
tape
don't know.
recorder?
I don't know. Somehow she slipped in it. I don't know.
I don't want to know.
That's crazy. I don't want to know where her recorder is either.
On the Oh My Health, there is some weird stuff going on podcast.
Where can you put a recorder?
A few cavities.
Oh,
Well,
God.
thank you guys so much for being on the show on this amazing, you guys are amazing. And I can see why your show's doing so well and why it's one of my favorites. So you guys go check out Jared and Tiffany on Everyday Guru. Are you guys recording right now or are you in a hiatus?
Well, we took a hiatus for a little while, like a month or two, just because, well, just the holidays and Thanksgiving. But we're gonna get more episodes recorded, and I see how like laser focused you are. Like you don't miss an episode. I'm like, damn, I need that.
It's inspiring.
It's inspiring. So we're gonna try to be more consistent.
Yes.
Because that's what I always hear from all these gurus. Consistency is key, especially like on YouTube podcasts. You got to be consistent because people, have like ADD like I do. So if you're not consistent, people will go elsewhere. So just be consistent, be laser focused, and
It catches you in the algorithms too, when it's like I release on Mondays, and actually we're releasing a third day this starting in 2021 because we have so many people wanting to be on the show. But the
good.
algorithms pick it up as like I'm steady, I'm moving. It's like it's good. But if I go on a hiatus for 6 months, it would drop me back down. So definitely, it's being
Right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yep. Exactly. It's all about the algorithms. Yep. I've heard that. Same with YouTube, especially. And what really people get mad about YouTube is one thing, everything can be going great and you get a record number. The next thing something happens, they change it and bam, your viewership, listenership just drops off like a rock.
Well, I do not gauge my success on numbers ever. I gauge my success on people like you, those beautiful stories that are coming back at me. And I'm like, wow, people are listening. People are getting it. People are like that ripple effect that I told you when you tell your story. Sometimes you never see it, but sometimes you do get a little glimpse of what it is you're putting out in the world. So you guys keep putting that beautiful stuff out in the world.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice.
Thank you guys for being
again.
Thank you guys for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.